Candidates, a forum for candidates for the November 8th general election for Mayor of Anoka. Thanks to the candidates, those who submitted questions, the facility managers, and the viewing audience for making this presentation possible. The forum is being recorded. Thank you, QCTV, for your video production. I'm Sandy Connor, and I will moderate this forum. This is Sue Dargans, who will assist in keeping things moving smoothly. We are members of the Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids Area League of Women Voters, the sponsor of this forum. I live in Blaine, so I can't vote for any of these candidates. All candidates for this race were invited to participate in the forum, and we are delighted that all accepted. The League of Women Voters does not support or oppose any political parties or candidates for office. I'm sure both of these candidates care very much who you vote for, but the League does not. The League does hope that each of you will vote. The goal of our forums is to help citizens become informed voters. The candidates and the League are here to provide information. Welcome to Anoka Mayoral candidates Virginia Louden and Phil Rice. In lieu of opening statements, we will begin with 2 questions which were provided to the candidates in advance. This will be followed by questions from the public which were submitted in advance. We will end with closing statements from each candidate. Candidates will take turns answering first. For the first 2 questions, answers are limited to 90 seconds. Candidate Rice, what is your motivation to run for this office, and what experience or knowledge would help you to serve effectively?
Thank you, League of Women Voters, and thank you for that introduction, because I think all of us would agree, I think you said it, that voting is our responsibility. And as I've been out knocking on doors, I've run into people who said, we don't vote. And so then I stand for a few minutes and plead with them that it's really their responsibility to vote, and that's our government. And so I appreciate the work that the League of Women Voters does, and I appreciate you hosting this forum. My name is Phil Rice. I'm running for mayor of the city of Anoka. I'm motivated to continue the good work that our city council has done really for the past decade or more. I've been a part of this city council for 16 years. And mayor for the last 12. I find it hard to be an advocate or a representative without listening. And so I see myself as a listening ear and a voice for common sense. I think if you've watched council meetings, you would say that that's true. I typically try to be fair to all and keep the conversation civil and moving forward with respect and integrity and honesty. I have a lot of experience here. I'm a mental health worker for my regular 9 to 5. And so I referenced listening earlier, and it's difficult to work in mental health if you don't have a listening ear as well. And so I advocate for my clients. And typically the first question I ask my client is, what do you want? And then I try to help them find a way to either change their goals if they're really unrealistic goals, or help them find a way to achieve those goals. And so that's not much different than what I do here as mayor. We try to identify goals and achieve those goals, and I think we've done a very nice job of that.
Candidate Louden.
Thank you to the League for having us here again today. I appreciate your efforts. I am Virginia Louden. I too am running for mayor of Anoka. My motivation is you, the people of Anoka. I've lived here for nearly 20 years, and between my children, my family, my friends, all of the relationships that I've built within the community for the last 2 decades, you are my motivation. All this time I've been watching and listening and following along, and I've learned, not only myself, but many of the people that I know are ready for a change. And I feel like with my experience as both a woman and a wife, a mother of 5, a small business owner, a nonprofit founder, former charter member, forgive me. Just everything I bring to the table, I bring a new perspective, and I'm ready to embrace that and help facilitate the change that we would like.
Thank you. And now candidate Louden, second question. What are your goals for Anoka's future?
I have 4 basic goals, which are transparency, inclusion, growth, and strengthening the community. My goal would be to leave it even better than I found it. I love this town. It's a part of me. I feel like a lot of the people want to feel heard again. They want to feel welcome back into the process. And I want to bring that. I want to lead by example and just showing that if I can do this, and so can you, and if you have good ideas and motivation and a passion for this city, then you too should consider getting more involved, just like me.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
You know, I view home ownership. You buy a home and you have a mortgage and you pay that mortgage, and finally you finish paying that mortgage, and at some point that home becomes someone else's home. And so I view this office sort of the same. I'm the caretaker. I'm the person who happens to live here now, and I do the best that I can to take care of that. My goals haven't changed much. They really are to support police and fire, to be sensitive to neighborhoods and try to maintain the stability, safety, look and feel of our neighborhoods. I think some of our neighborhoods get threatened at times with rental properties and other businesses and things that sort of invade into the neighborhoods, and they want someone to help to protect that. And so our zoning and all of that, we've really worked very hard over the past years for that. Our budget, of course, is a huge goal, and that is to have a balanced budget and in my mind, a surplus in our balanced budget. We have pretty consistently always had a nice surplus in our budget. For political reasons, we've reduced that surplus a bit over the years, and we've done projects, big projects, street renewal projects. That's another one of my goals on here, is to continue that street renewal and make an investment in our infrastructure and in our town so that our credit rating stays good, so that when we need money, we can borrow it cheaply. Our downtown is the last thing I'll say. We have to maintain a viable, vibrant downtown area because it really supports the whole community. It supports our taxes. It supports what we do, who we are when we say we're from Anoka.
Thank you, candidates. I will now ask the candidates to respond to questions submitted by the public via our website and questions of importance to League of Women Voters. Responses are limited to 1 minute. So, Candidate Rice, what direct hands-on involvement with the city prepares you for the position of mayor?
Pretty easy for me. I'll say having been mayor for the last 12 years prepares me for being mayor. So I said it last time we talked. I said, if you like the look and the feel, the changes of Anoka, if you like the way that Anoka is moving, if you like the direction, if you like seeing on your tax statement that you're paying about the same tax that you did 12 years ago, then I think you should vote for Phil Rice. That experience is in keeping our budget balanced, our tax increases very low, and that's what leads me here, is just to continue that good work.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
Well, I will admit, he has me there. He's mayor, and I have not done that before. But I have lived here a very long time, and I am invested in this community, both, my family, my business, everything. I'm out there, I'm volunteering at events, I am interacting with the community on a regular basis. I am willing to have the difficult conversations with people. It's who I am. I'm a people person. So I haven't been mayor yet, but I think I am truly ready, and I would love the job.
Thank you. Candidate Louden, what unique qualifications do you bring to the position of mayor? What personal traits would make you well-suited for this office?
Well, I've already said it. I love this town. When I love something and I want to invest in it, I want to be a part of it, I want to roll around in it and get dirty and get out there and do things with the people. I like to lead by example. I bring my children, I'm involved in the schools. I feel like my experience as a former human resources administrator, I did that for almost 20 years. I'm willing to work with people and listen to all kinds of people. And I lost my train of thought. You mentioned being nervous earlier, now you got me. Yeah, I apologize.
Candidate Rice.
Well, I was born one of 13 children in my house. I'm kind of right in the middle. I think I'm in the middle. And middle kids are negotiators. Middle kids are listeners. They're the ones who sort of try all the time to make sure there isn't too much conflict or too much going on, and that has been my role. And so I think it is well suited to being mayor because you chair each meeting. And often there are issues that are hot buttons for someone or another, and the community and all of that. Leading from that and then into a career in mental health, I already referred to that, listening, and being able to help people achieve what it is they're trying to achieve. I have chuckled about Virginia Louden's statement that she loves Anoka, and I say, well, then she should be voting for me because I've been here for 16 years working in the leadership of the city. So,
To be fair, I voted for you every time until this time.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, what do you believe the path to success involves? How would you promote your strengths and accomplishments?
Well, we've been talking about that the whole time, really, and it is in setting and establishing goals and working toward those goals. You have to have an environment of growth. You have to have an environment that's supportive. You have to have an environment that is willing to reach out and, as Councilmember Weaver often says, to think outside the box or to be brave and bold. And I think that that is a part of city leadership. We have a tremendous responsibility as well. It's a big budget for a city our size. Because we own the electric utility, the numbers are much larger than a city that's got 18,000 people in it. And so that responsibility also is a challenge and a blessing. And so working with all of that is the challenge, and that's what we do week to week, month to month.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
Repeat the question, please.
What do you believe the path to success involves? How would you promote your strengths and accomplishments?
Showing up. I will continue to show up for Anoka. I want to be a presence that can be counted on in every aspect of the job. I am okay with not knowing the answer to everything, but I am very good at knowing what my resources are and where to find them. I am not afraid to ask for help. I am not afraid to admit when I am wrong. And I feel like, given the chance, I can be what Anoka is ready for. I will show up.
Thank you. Candidate Louden, what are your top 2 goals that you will work to accomplish if you are elected?
One of the main goals, and I talked about it a little bit last time at the previous forum, was transparency. I just feel like there's a lot of people, if you go down the social media rabbit hole, or you stop by places within the community and have coffee with somebody who has some concerns, they're just not feeling like the people that they voted for are taking their thoughts, their feelings, their wants, and at the end of the day. And just because you're in a position that, it's not about what I want. It's not about what Virginia wants for Anoka. It is what I am willing to listen and learn and provide for the people that do vote.
Thank you. Candidate Rice,
Would you repeat that question, please?
what are the top 2 goals you will work to accomplish if you are elected?
In today's world, I think support of people is really the first answer, the top goal. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit. I think supporting our police and fire is essential because I think people need to feel safe and supported in their community. They need to feel like they have their resources, they have what they need, and that they are in a place that they can flourish and grow. And so that kind of support, that kind of understanding, and in our world, we need a haven like Anoka, like the city of Anoka, where we can be and we can be accepted and we can thrive and grow. The second goal is probably spending. Our budget has been challenged. We have inflation now and growing needs, and it's going to be a challenge to maintain that and keep our taxes low. So a balanced budget with a low tax increase would be my goal.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, many properties in the city of Anoka have visible problems which need to be addressed. As mayor, what steps will you take to enhance the beauty of Anoka? Will there be an increase in housing code enforcement?
You're right. As you travel around Anoka, you do see some properties that are blighted and have problems that really scream, I need fixing. And we have, this is one of the issues, one of the items that I ran on 16 years ago. Anoka is very heavy rental properties, not owner-occupied properties. About half of the city, about half of the residents that live in the city are renting rather than owning. And so maintenance as part of our rental licensing is pretty much taking care of itself because we have that built into the ordinance and we have an inspector for that. Recently, that inspector took another job in the city of Anoka, so one of the things I'm going to work for as mayor is to hire a new code enforcement person to travel and to enforce our policies. It's difficult when you run into someone who has a hard time completing the maintenance on their own home, and then we have code enforcement saying you have to do it. Well, we have to be a resource for them to find the resources they need to get it done. And so that's another challenge.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
I know currently we have, I believe it's called the CARE program, that people can apply to get a grant to do things on the outside of their property. I would love to know more about that and see if there's ways we can grow and expand on that. Somebody actually just asked me the other day because they had received a notice that there was something on, their car was parked on the wrong part of the property and there were like weeds growing up around it. And they received a notice and it was their first notice and they felt like it escalated too quickly. So I would like to know more about the process of who, how, when are residents being notified? Is it being done fair and consistently throughout the city? That was their concern. They felt singled out in a way. And I think I would really love to see some sort of program where people with skills in the community, like they have a skill, a hobby that they love, that maybe there could be some sort of community billboard. You know, if I need help mowing my lawn or I need help weeding the garden, they can sign up to do something like that for their neighbors.
Thank you. Candidate Louden, how will you deal with the increase in crime and vagrancy in Anoka?
Well, the first step is having a very good relationship with your local police department, and I am ready to do that. I think they do an incredible job, and I fully support them, and I think one of the biggest things that would help would be to kind of figure out ways to get to the root of the problem. What is truly causing this rise in these events? Like I said, I mentioned it before, some of the questions are a little similar, but is it teenagers with nothing to do? Is it people who are hard up for money, committing crimes to maybe sell something? We need to get to the root of the problem and have a very strong relationship with our police department.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
I think it's a good question. The problem with the question is that our crime is not rising and we do not have an increase in vagrancy in our city. We have addressed this problem over the last 5 or 6 years by adding security and police and supporting our police. I'm quite sure that our police feel very supported in what they do in our community. Statistically, even our chief of police questioned as he was providing a police update recently. I don't know why our crime stats are down right now. I don't know what makes auto theft go up. We have to get to the bottom of that. I like the idea. We have to try to solve the problem. But one of the problems is to support our police and our neighborhoods, to have neighborhood watches where if you see something that doesn't look right, you simply call 911 and say, I'm noticing something that doesn't look right. We just send a police squad over to check and see if they think it's all right. And I think that's our neighborhoods are supportive of each other, and I think that'll continue to work well.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, traffic diversion has increased the volume and noise of traffic in residential neighborhoods, causing a disruption for families at all hours. What will you do as mayor to regulate the large amount of traffic diverted through residential areas and increase the comfort of residents?
Thank you for that question. Obviously, we've got a lot going on in the city of Anoka right now. Highway 10 is changing the way people drive. If you try to get out onto Ferry Street, you know that that's true. The state of Minnesota, as they have provided detour routes, have not routed traffic through residential neighborhoods to the best that they can. I think they made an error on Park Street, and they quickly recognized that. Our city is responsive. Our parking advisory board, our police are responding to those needs and putting up temporary stop signs where they can and where it's demanded. But patience is the other answer, because we have one more year of this and we'll be done. And what will happen as a result of all of this construction is that traffic is going to move much more smoothly and much more quickly through Anoka. We said as we were investing millions in Highway 10, we're really fixing our neighbor's problem, because we live here, we exit Highway 10 here. We don't have to wait in line to get to Elk River. And so all of this really is just going to help everyone have a higher quality of life and less windshield time.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
I don't know all of the specific things that people are having a problem with, like which areas of the neighborhood are having the biggest problem. I know where I live, I was between two areas. I'm not getting any of the noise or the traffic, but I would, have to be routed different ways depending on the week. So that's my only personal experience to pull from. After living here so long, I know it's hard to go through such a huge project like this, but in the end, it's going to be wonderful and lovely to get anywhere after that. My best, idea would maybe to have some sort of hotline or a specific phone number that people could call and leave a message saying what their specific issue is, and try dealing with them, on a situational basis. I think everybody has different opinions on what bothers them.
Thank you. Candidate Louden. To strengthen our city's resilience to unpredictable climate changes, what initiatives do you propose, or what current initiatives do you want to expand?
I think I like, the city's been doing a lot of compostable and recyclable products at events. I would love to see that expanded. I would love to see, maybe a couple electric vehicle charging stations in reasonable locations. I would love to see bike rentals so people can use them to go on the trails and down by the river. I would also like a lot more information on what it would take and how it would affect Anoka to get the North Star running more often.
Candidate Rice.
Global warming is a much, much bigger problem than the city of Anoka. We encourage everyone to do their part. I think recycling is one of the primary things, and we have goals that we set every year for recycling. We fall short of that goal every year. And we try to educate the public, try to get people to understand what is recyclable and that it can all go in that can. And it's still difficult. Some people just prefer to throw it in the trash. And that was our world 50 years ago. People weren't recycling at that time. It was all going in the trash. We own the electric utility, and we're working on green power, green energy. I appreciate electric cars. I appreciate that sometime in the future, we may have cars that are actually a smaller carbon footprint than an internal combustion engine. However, now, electric cars really are running on coal energy because we're producing electricity in a coal plant and then they're plugging in their car and drawing that energy off that. So it's a learning experience, and I appreciate all the work and money that's being invested there, but I think we're not there yet at creating a greener planet.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, what do you see as the appropriate role of the Human Rights Commission? Is the Human Rights Commission needed? Do you think any changes to the Human Rights Commission are needed? And if so, what changes and why?
Thank you. The role of the Human Rights Commission, in my mind, is to support the community through education and through dialogue. And so we want to address people's concerns, and we want to be supportive of people. It's pretty early on to say whether we need any changes in our Human Rights Commission. They're really, we've been through a threatening period where the City Council was trying to establish some other means of providing for the Human Rights Commission. I supported the Human Rights Commission throughout, and so I will still say we do need a Human Rights Commission. I think it's a good thing for the city to have, but I don't know that we can identify what the changes are that are necessary, or if there are any changes necessary, because they're fledgling right now. They're really just getting started and getting the whole thing put together from the ground up.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
This is a tough one for me. Back when the Human Rights Commission was trying to be brought back by a group of citizens, I was one of those people that were trying to help revive it because it had been stagnant for many, many years. And that interaction with the city itself, being a passionate group of citizens wanting to try to do good, and we were met with such resistance. Not necessarily from Phil Rice. He was pretty good about it, but I do feel like we need one, and I feel like it scared some people thinking that we were just trying to cause problems. Really, it's supporting the community. It is being an advocate, helping point out resources when people might come into a situation where they feel like they need a voice or a sounding board, a point of reference when, like the city or the police department has an issue and they need a second set of eyes on non-private issues. That would ultimately be our role.
Thank you. Candidate Louden, what will you do to ensure that the streets and sidewalks are cleaned up in the downtown area?
Make sure that whomever we are hiring is doing their job. I think we do a really great job when we have the big events. There's always going to be trash and cigarette butts and stuff, but they are picked up fairly quickly. The garbage cans are full by the next day. They're always empty. I feel like the city does a very good job of this so far, so I would just maintain the good work and make sure we keep doing it.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
Around City Hall here is where I happen to see full garbage cans pretty frequently. And so I know that in our parks we have a ranger and people drive the truck from garbage can to garbage can in the evenings and that sort of thing. And of course, on the weekends, I think our city staff aren't on duty picking up trash, and so these cans get full pretty quickly. I don't know how we're going to deal with that issue. I think we have to set up a system for collecting that garbage, or at least bagging it and getting the cans emptied and setting the full bag tied alongside the can so that it's still available for people to place garbage in the can, because it is a problem. It's an easy to see problem when a can is full and it's overflowing. So a problem that we're going to have to solve. And the only way we're going to solve that is with resources. We're going to have to figure out how to make that work and to make it available.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, what do you consider the appropriate use of social media such as Facebook by City Council members?
I don't do it. I don't do any of the social media. I will text you on a good day, and that's my social media. I really don't do it. I would prefer that it were not done. I think that we have public means to communicate with people, and I think that the social media is deceptive, divisive, it is unaccountable, and I think overall it's a negative. And so personally, I would prefer that if you're an elected official, you don't use social media.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
We live in a time that is social media. I don't think we can escape it, and I don't think we can hide from it, but I think we can make sure everybody's doing their part to keep it above board. For example, President of the United States, when you're elected, you get, an Instagram and a Facebook that is approved by the city, and it is run for by them, and they have rules and regulations on what you can do. So I think once you're in office, if you choose to have a public social media profile for your position, that should be done in cooperation with the city. But I don't think the city has any place of telling anybody what they can do on their own personal profile and any of community groups and stuff where it's, anybody and everybody. Duct cleaning, cake making, anybody can post there. But I think if you're gonna have a profile that has to do with your position, for example, if Phil wanted a mayoral Facebook page, that should be in cooperation with the city.
Thank you. Candidate Louden. Do you think all residents of Anoka feel that their concerns are being heard? How would you provide meaningful opportunities for all residents of Anoka to participate in decision-making?
Well, firstly, voting is important, as Mayor Rice said before. Just getting people engaged in the process again. I just feel like, the last few years have kind of scared people away, on a national level. But I think just bringing people back to vote in general is a really good start. I don't feel like a lot of our people are feeling listened to right now. And I would like to get creative with the city and find new ways for people to feel heard, besides the, voting for your elected officials. But when something, major is going on, I know they talk about it in city council meetings and whatnot, and those are available on the internet and on the website. You can read the minutes and stuff. But that's not how average people work, and I just think we need to get creative and find new ways to get people involved again.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
I agree. I think people don't feel entirely listened to. I think that's their responsibility because as a city government, we are available. All of our meetings are open. We have an open forum at every meeting. And so it'll sound like a pat answer, but at every meeting I say, if anyone has anything they want to share with our council that is not on the agenda, you can do so at this time. And I think that is an open invitation for people to communicate with their city. Not only that, but if they have a computer in their home, which I think nearly everybody does, or a smartphone, you can look up our city council on your phone, and all of our phone numbers are there. And so you can actually talk to a person and voice your concerns or your complaints. The city of Anoka is a complaint-driven system. If you don't like the fact that your neighbor has a broken garage door and it's tilted sideways, you have to call the city and say, would you go talk to my neighbor about, well, actually, first we'll say, please go over and talk to your neighbor if you can. But if you can't, then we'll go over and talk to them for you. And so I hope everyone can feel heard. I hope they will feel heard.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, what steps would you take to make sure all residents of Anoka believe they are a valued part of the community?
I'll say it from the rooftop if they'd like. I think that we depend on each other. We depend on our city to support each other. We depend on that kind of communication and that kind of symbiosis. That's what our neighborhoods are. And we go from our household and our family being supportive of each other, to our neighborhood being supportive of each other, to our neighborhoods being supportive of each other, and then to our city being supportive, and then on and so on. I think that we do have some alienation going on in our world, and that's our fault. And so we have to be open-minded, we have to be welcoming, we have to, I like to say this right here, we have to have the posture of welcome and let's talk. And that's, I think, where we're at.
Thank you. Candidate Louden,
Can you repeat the question, please?
what steps would you take to make sure all residents of Anoka believe that they are a valued part of the community?
I think by showing, respect and pride in the city in general, continuing to invite people to be an active part of the community in every level. The city's really good about throwing events, all are welcome style events. By taking care of things aesthetically and making sure there are amenities that are agreeable to the community, that everybody's doing their job in the inner workings of the city and are, holding everybody accountable and to a high standard. I think just by investing pride into the city will just keep people coming and moving here and spending time here and money.
Thank you. Candidate Louden, how do you plan to make a decision when many in the community want something that you are against or oppose something that you support?
Well, that's the thing. You have to be able to represent everybody even when you don't agree with them. And I think by interacting with the community, you have to be a good listener. So I might not like, what's a good example? The jail, for example. I'm not crazy about the idea of having a bigger jail in downtown Anoka. But I also don't like a lot of the other ideas that are being thrown around. So I think we just need to keep listening, keep working, keep having those difficult conversations, and find a place to meet in the middle. And I think I'm good at that.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
This is a difficult question. I remember many years ago a lady standing at the podium. It was before I was elected, but it was while I was interested, and she was yelling that she felt that the city council should be voting the way that she felt the council should vote. And a council member said, wait a second. Do you think that I should vote the way you think this should be? And she said, yes. And he said, well, then you should elect someone else. And I think there is a piece of that in the truth. And that is that I have to be true to my own heart, to my own values, to my own beliefs, to what I believe is right. And there are times when that is in conflict with our community or with others. But this is a difficult position, and we're in a leadership role. And there are times that we have to make choices that people don't either understand or don't support. But really, we're city government, and we have to have these types of decisions made. And so sometimes they're unpopular. And I apologize for that, but that's the way this system works.
Thank you.
We're good.
Candidate Rice, what programs or services would it be appropriate to curtail or eliminate to balance the city budget?
That's a doozy of a question, isn't it? That would require really probably more than my pay grade. We have city staff that several of them have their masters in public administration and in leadership and in public services and in electric and water and all of these sorts of things. And I think that we are now providing what is essential for the city to provide. I don't think that we would say that in order to cut costs, we have to eliminate services, at least none that come to my mind. And what we can do is become more efficient in providing those services. If we need to cut costs, then we need to do more with less. And I think that's the answer rather than cutting services.
Thank you. Candidate Louden.
That is not something I currently know the answer to. It's one of those moments where I need more information. At not being a current member of the city government, I don't get the full copy. As residents, we get a copy in the mail that shows a very, jargon-free, one-page budget. So as far as what could be removed, I'm not ready to answer that, but I will definitely look into it and get more information.
Thank you. Candidate Louden, If you had the authority and the money to do one thing to make life better for the residents of Anoka, what would you do?
One thing. As a mom, living here for a long time and raising kids in a city where the winter is long, I wish there was a place I could take my children that would be indoors and run off some energy and stay in Anoka and spend my money here. That is one thing I wish, whether it was some sort of community center. I don't know what the answer is, but I wish there were places I wouldn't have to drive somewhere else to go to a family fun activity place.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
I think the answer is easy in this, and that is bring people together. We have a community. We have from A to Z within our community. And what's going to make our community work better, what's going to make our community happier, what's going to make our community more successful is to come together. A great example is the Christmas tree lighting ceremony outside. It's a bitter cold day sometimes, but there are thousands and thousands of people out there coming together around fires and around the holiday spirit and the togetherness that comes together in that way. And I think that's a good example. We need multicultural events. We need to share in other cultures as well and bring people together. But I think if I had enough money and enough resources, just bringing everyone together would be the answer to that.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, as mayor, how will you address residents' concerns about communication, planning, and other concerns related to city maintenance?
Well, I said earlier that the city of Anoka is a complaint-driven system. We don't have inspectors going out knocking on doors and asking, do you have a problem today? And so we need people to be able to communicate what their concerns and issues are. A voice and a welcoming ear are the ways we solve problems. And so we try to be understanding, we try to recognize, we try to head all of that off. We have professionals, like I referred to earlier, in positions of leadership in the city. And so planning is part of that. And so each year we do a budget, we try to sort out everything that the city needs and what services we're providing and how we're going to do that. And the public, we talked about this one page. If you're really curious about it, you can go into the website of the city and see line by line every single penny we spend throughout the year. And if that's your concern, boy, I love the whistleblowers that come to the open forum and yell at us for one thing or another. I think it's very healthy for the city.
Thank you. Candidate Louden,
Can you repeat the question, please?
as mayor, how will you address residents' concerns about communication, planning, and other concerns related to city maintenance?
I feel like city maintenance is kind of a broad spectrum. Basically, a couple ideas maybe, like when your kids go to school, you're on an email list and you are on a phone blast list. I'm not sure if that's the answer, but maybe a way that people could sign up if they really want more in-depth information sent to their device. Possibly a bulletin board that is more easily accessible and jargon-free, where people could go onto the city website and see specifically what is coming up and being worked on, and possibly even more specific, in-depth social media posts telling people exactly what's going on, and if they have feedback, how they could do that in an easy way.
Candidate Louden, if elected, will you vote for or against continuing Anoka's ban on such things as chalk art, and why?
I am not a fan of the chalk art ban. I understand, I think it needs to be reworded, is what I think we need to do. Certain things, we don't want to deface public property, anything like that, but I think, if my kids want to go out and draw on the sidewalk and make a hopscotch board at the end, right in front of my house, man, I do not think that should be illegal. I think we need to just go back and tweak that one a bit to make it more reasonable.
Thank you. Candidate Rice?
I'll continue to support the ordinance. I think that this question is a great example of social media in politics because it's a misnomer to even call it a chalk art ordinance. It's really that protest that we're trying to provide safety and security within our community and certainly within our public spaces. And so the chalk is an unfortunate side cause or event within that ordinance. And so I have said publicly before, when I was a kid, we did our hopscotch on the driveway. Even now, when I go to my grandkids to babysit, I see a great big hopscotch right in the middle of their driveway. And I think that is common, usual, and that's the way chalk art happens. It usually happens on your own space where your kids can sit down in a safe place and draw their pictures or their hopscotches or whatever they're doing. We do have the ability to share community-wise with chalk art at certain events, but we try to protect the city from these types of protests because so many of them are vulgar or unwelcome by the vast majority of the community.
Thank you. Candidate Rice? Earlier this year, Anoka voted to pilot the state's first social district, the Downtown Entertainment District. If elected, would you support continuing this proposal if it came back before the City Council?
I do support that proposal. I don't know whether it will come to fruition or not. I don't know if we can solve all of the apparent problems that are there. It really requires a controlled environment. It really requires to be able to control who comes and who goes from that event. If we can solve those problems and if we can provide that in a safe, meaningful way, I think it is a tremendous opportunity for the community. I think it's a great opportunity for the businesses that happen to exist there, but I think it's also a great opportunity to see many, many visitors to the city of Anoka. And we know that when people come and visit the city of Anoka through our Halloween parade or our Christmas tree lighting or other events, food trucks, they get to see this beautiful historic downtown area and they're likely to return.
Thank you. Candidate Louden?
There are many things I like about the idea of an entertainment district down there. And I will definitely be willing to have those conversations and keep digging in and finding out if there's a way that we can pull it off. But there are so many things that have to be handled and in place before it would work properly. The things that we've been talking about are, the people that live above the businesses. How is that going to affect them with noise or trash or accessing, their apartments? How do all of the businesses on that specific area feel about it? Is this going to help their business? Is it going to hurt their business? Because we have to take care of the ones that are already here also. And, who's going to pay for it and police it and clean up? I mean, is this a Anoka Police Department problem? Are we hiring an outside security service? There are just so many moving parts that have to be decided before we know if it's going to work or come to fruition, but I'm willing to have those discussions.
Thank you. Candidate Louden? Last year, the city of Anoka voted to permit UTVs to be driven by owners with permits on the city streets. If elected, would you propose changing that part of the city code?
At this time, I would say not. I personally haven't run into any problems with that, but I would, of course, keep my ears open, make sure everything is, staying above board, but I haven't personally had any problems with that.
Thank you. Candidate Rice?
At this time, I would not propose any changes to that ordinance. I used to see golf carts going down my street before that was legal. And so we try to address people doing things that are good and healthy, like being out, being able to shop, being able to move about. And that golf cart or those golf carts were an answer to that problem for some. And so we addressed that problem and made it legal for golf carts to drive on our streets, certain streets, of course. And then the utility vehicle is an expansion of that. And I agree, we haven't seen problems with that. Our police are here, and they will alert us if we do have problems with it, but thus far, it's been law-abiding citizens driving street-legal vehicles, and really, there's not a lot of people driving them. We would have to see how that continues, but no change at this point.
Thank you. Candidate Rice, how important is historic preservation? What buildings and sites would you like to see preserved?
Well, historic preservation is the identity of Anoka, and so I think it is very important. I think it is essential to us. It is a challenge, of course. If we're talking about our downtown historic district, we passed an ordinance that said that you can't use stucco on a historic building or a storefront on Main Street. And very soon after, we had 2 different individuals come and say, I can't afford to fix that. I can't do what you're asking me to do. And unfortunately, that's our ordinance. And so in one case, there was some provision made, which I voted against because we had just passed the ordinance, and I think it's valuable to the city. And in the second one, we said, you have to fix it the way that it is. You have to replace the brick that's there. And so there's many buildings in Anoka, there are many homes in Anoka that should be preserved, that are being preserved, and our Historic Preservation Commission, our Housing and Redevelopment Authority have programs to help you to do that, to recognize that and to do that, and we need to continue to do that.
Thank you. Candidate Louden,
Can you repeat the question, please?
how important is historic preservation? What buildings and sites would you like to see preserved?
Historic preservation is very important for Anoka. It's the history and the nostalgia is one of the things that makes Anoka so great and so unique compared to, cities all around us. Personally, my favorite would be to bring back the amphitheater. I've said that before. I don't know how much money it would take or how long it would take, but I just think having that down by the river functioning, I think we would get a lot of use out of it. Plays, children's musical performances, comedy shows. There's so many things that could be used for. Is it realistic? I am not sure, but I would love to give it a try.
Thank you. Candidates will now have 1 minute each for a closing statement. Candidate Louden.
First, again, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting these. It's so important. And to everybody who's watching, I appreciate your engagement and your diligence in being a part of the process and really getting to know your candidates and who you're voting for in November. I would love to be the next mayor of Anoka. And so right now, I just make a pledge to you that I will continue to show up for you. I will be out there with you. I will represent you. I will respond to you. I am ready to do the work it takes to fill this position, and I'm ready to facilitate the change that I feel like Anoka is ready for.
Thank you. Candidate Rice.
I started out my community service in coaching youth sports. I had kids that were young and playing, and so I coached every sport they played in. I joined the fire department. I served 20 years on the fire department. I have been an elected official for the past 16 years. I believe that we do good work and that we're serving our community well. I have said it before, I'll say it again. If you like the look, the feel, the change, what Anoka represents to you, then I think it's important for you to vote for Phil Rice for mayor. My name is Phil Rice. I'm running for mayor. I need your support, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
League of Women Voters thanks the candidates for speaking to voters about issues and for running for mayor of Anoka. Thanks, viewers, for your interest in becoming informed voters. As we move through the election season, links to all our local election forums are located at lwvabcmn.org, as well as the QCTV website and YouTube. If you need to register to vote or update your registration, you can do that online at mnvotes.org or when you go to vote. If you are interested in League of Women Voters, please visit our website at lwvabcmn.org. Women and men age 18 and older are welcome to join. Remember, the general election is November 8th. Early voting opens on September 23rd and will continue through November 7th. Anoka residents can vote early at Anoka City Hall or Anoka County Elections Office. You can find information on voting options or find your polling place on the Minnesota Secretary of State's website. Our democracy depends on citizen involvement. Make your voice heard in the general election by voting on or before November 8th. Your vote is your voice. Thank you.